Welcome back to this channel. And by the time you're watching this, Donald Trump is doing his second term. And I wanted to tell a story that really helps me understand that happened to me in my life as an engineer, which really is also going to help you understand in your mind Donald Trump during his last presidency. And obviously, he's now back. And this might help you think about it, do with it, and understand. So, after 2008, the market of basically every industry was getting worse. And instead of getting a job for life, I was now forced to work through agencies. And every single time I got to a different project through an agency, managers at a time, and I really tried to use the language, not saying boss, manager. He was threatening me like that I could get in a lot of trouble if I was doing this or that. So basically, just micromanaging. And obviously, I wasn't having it. So that kind of led to the beginning of this crazy period in my life where I was quite frequently emotionally blackmailed or threatened by basically every part of management or senior management. So I ended this period at work where what I call it was a period of he said, she said. Every single day we would have two or three or four issues, and nobody knew who did it. A lot of people tried to put the blame on me. And by that time already, I was not having it. I wasn't type to lie because if I would lie at my job, I could rather just become a crypto scammer. Because if I lie at my job, I can rather be a crypto scammer. Gives me the best buck of. I could rather. I can rather be a crypto scammer. Gives me more bang for the buck. So I've worked for different construction companies, basically all over Amsterdam and the Netherlands. And of course, there's all these different members: a project manager, a team manager, the project manager of the project manager. And every single meeting, it was about either a contractor who did this wrong or a subcontractor who did something wrong or right. And then we have meetings and we had phone calls. And each of this meeting and phone call, basically each one of these, either the managers or the owners of these contractors, they would have a different kind of strategy of what we were going to do past this point after this meeting. So sometimes you might get two guys, and it would be like a good cop, a bad cop. Sometimes you will have good cop, bad cop. For the people who don't know this, you have two people, usually men. So sometimes you had these meetings where there was like a good cop or bad cop. So for people who don't know, you have two people. One is just shouting at your face, and then he takes a break, and the other person come, and then that person says, "I want to help you. I want to be on your side." And sometimes you have another meetings with 6 or 7 people, and they have a different kind of strategy. And they decided beforehand that they're gonna be very, very supportive towards me because the contractor did not sign a contract or the subcontractor has been gone. So it wasn't actually the blame putting on me. So they were actually kind of behind me. So you would have this really weird combination. You would go to one meeting and that person would be like almost screaming for an hour in your face. And then you go to another meeting. And sometimes these meetings could be back to back. And then you would go, and then you would get all the support in the world. It's not your fault. It's this person, that person. And sometimes you had this situation where you had this person just shouting at you for a whole day. And then at the end of the day, that person was in a different meeting. And now they come to you, and then everyone is like, "We're supporting you. You know, we're really behind you." And they, they even supported me now. So, yeah, it's kind of a gaslighting and it kind of makes people mad. And I kind of still don't understand how I can survive this place. But having a life outside of a job, a traditional 9 to 5 job, these weird little features, what I came across was actually what kept me sane in this period of 2008 until now. Because I could see the humor in it, could see the funny interaction of the people. I could see the psychology of people just trying to put their best. a story to either put the blame on me so then I could get out of the contract, or they could quit the contract so they could actually go to their managers and say that they got the job done. So yeah, it's quite of a manipulation, but also quite funny to see someone just changing almost instantly for someone who's just screaming at your face to almost like a cuddling teddy bear and saying that he supports you and that he's fully behind you. And that's just because some other manager of the manager told him that this is going to happen. And of course, what this made me realize, and of course, it's not just this, it's there's a whole life story behind of a lot of other things that happened at the workplaces that I was, at the things that happened in my life, at the people I met. Whether these people are rich or whether they are in power or in positions of power, they might have a different attitude and approach to the truth and lies and games compared to most ordinary people. So, in a normal situation where you talk to someone as an ordinary person to another ordinary person, there's this assumption that you say the things that you say is because you believe in it, because you think that way, because you feel like it, and that's why you say things. And there's a kind of assumption that you always say this because they are true, or what you think, or at least what you believe that's true. However, a lot of people in power for positions, and usually these people are pretty rich, they don't approach their conversations this way, especially if it's a conversation that has any relationship with money or power or their job. Often go in a conversation with kind of a game playing mentality. Is our objective from this conversation? What is our objective from this meeting? So, in the case of me, they either were looking for someone to put the blame on, or they just had a lack of resources and they had me quit because then they could at least not get the blame themselves, which they eventually got, but that's a different story. So then you go in basically playing a character and try to think, what is the outcome? What do I need to say in order to get things that I want? What is the optimal choice of words? What is the choice of strategy to try and get the outcome that I want? And because I've seen many kitchens, I've seen many workplaces, you start to realize that this is a very normal way in office politics, but also in politics in general, in this world of powerful people. That's just the way interactions go. So when Donald Trump came back in power, I wasn't really surprised by the way the things he said and the way he behaved. So Donald Trump and also Elon Musk, which is also now in the administration, they tend to have a thing to say an awful lot of things. They say we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. And sometimes the things that they say seem crazy. And then you get the people in the media and also on social media, people on all these platforms saying, if they do that policy, how's that gonna affect us? What is gonna happen? What's gonna do? And then you will often find out that the last administration is he would say that we're gonna do this thing. And then eventually nothing would come out of it. And you see that a lot in politics. There would never be actually an actual policy. There will never be less people. There will never be more money for ordinary people, for example, or even an attempt at policy. And this is not just Donald Trump. This is actually happening in politics worldwide. And if you're an ordinary person, let's say are a person who has a heart on a good place, this makes a lot of you confused because a lot of people assume there's somebody like Donald Trump that if somebody like Donald Trump says this is going to happen, this policy will be implemented, that actually it means that he wants to implement that thing or wants to do that thing. For someone like me who has been in maybe not in the highest place of politics, but definitely a lot of office politics in a lot of different niches, whatever they think works in that specific meeting, I was not really surprised, and I'm not still not surprised at all what can happen if someone says something and they don't kind. I was actually not surprised by the way these people behave. As a matter of fact, this is actually a very, very common way of rich and powerful people behaving. You can say that they lie all the time, or you can actually look behind the screen of lies and see what their intentions are. And this is basically the intention. So, what that means is we shouldn't really be reading anything at all in terms of what rich and powerful people actually say or actually want or actually going to do from what they're going to say that they're going to do. When people like this say something that they want to implement, it's actually more what they want us to believe. And this also explains why it's so odd how people do things differently than what they say are going to do. So, for example, in politics, you have especially right wing conservative parties that they say, for example, you have conservatives who are always in every election anti-immigration and at the same time expand the number of legal migration in the country. You have Elon Musk who is again trying to fund anti-immigration parties and yet is trying to kind implementation of immigration of many kinds into the US. So conceptualize everything. If these people talk, we need to understand and think, what do these people want? And in the vast majority of cases, what these rich and powerful people want is more power, more wealth, and not just for themselves, but also for their kids. So when you see a country get invaded, let's say Vladimir Putin is invading Ukraine, you have to think about how old his age is. I was looking up, how old is he? Does he have any kids? Does he have a particular son? Many sons? Because in most cases, these people, they want their wealth and assets transferred to their kids, especially their sons, and especially one particular son. Because unlike most people who truly believe that rich and powerful people just bootstrap themselves, most of these people know that you have to sell your moral values. You have to have nepotism, all besides the right connections, all besides the hard work and all that stuff that's been sold to us for the rest of our lives. And just thinking like this, even though it's very simplistic, it's the best way to understand people like Musk, people like Putin, people like Trump. You need to understand their motivations. What do they want? And of course, every individual is different. Every situation is different. You cannot see what they actually want. You cannot think like they do. You cannot understand their intentions and motivations. But most of the times, it's amassing further power or wealth for either themselves or for their kids. So, of course, most people, they really can't understand why you have to behave this certain way if you think it's going to get what you want. And indeed, most people don't do that. But the truth is, when you are in a game situation, this often happens. You see that Monopoly when you play with your friends. There's always someone who's stealing money from the bank. There's always someone who says, I'm going to help you. If I'm not allowed to pay at your house, you're not allowed to pay at my house. You don't have to. And then eventually they stab them in the back and they still get their money. You also have this in the game of poker. And yeah, you can technically say it's a lie if you fold and the other person has said that he got a straight flush. But everyone is rationalizing. They just say it's a game, it's allowed, it's even encouraged, everything to win the game. And so when people think of life as a game, there are people who just really believe what they believe in that moment, and they really believe that they have to say or do or extract anything from the other person to get that thing. So in politics or office politics, don't expect consistency, don't expect consistent ideology, don't expect consistent beliefs. What you need to expect is a consistent drive to accumulate wealth and or power. And the only way to win this game is to not play the game. I don't want you to play the game. I don't want you to get sucked into it because there's a lot of words are going to be thrown around. Lots of stories are going to be thrown around. Lots of ideas are going to be thrown around. And they will generally be designed to destabilize you and make you weak so that your wealth and your resources can be transferred to the people in power. So just don't get dragged into the game. if you can be dragged into a game playing mentality, you will probably end up in a situation where it's a straight shootout in the game between the powerful and the weak. And unless you're a centimillionaire, you're one of the weak. The way you win this game is to not play the game. Step outside the rules of the game and realize you need to ally with other poor and ordinary people, because if you don't, you're just going to be part of the crab in the bucket. And you know the mentality is the crab wants to get out, others just pulling him down. You just cannot win this game. And then the rich and powerful will win the game. They will take the resources. And eventually, crazy enough, I think that's how I kind of won, yeah, the game of office politics. These people, they got dismantled. Everyone is doing a different job right now. Everyone is having either a divorce or having gray hair or something like that. And I just started this channel. That was actually one of the main motivations to start a channel, to get you to learn something as well. It might also kill humanity when you get sucked into this game. I don't want it to happen to me. I don't want it to happen to you. I don't want it to happen to us. But let's also be realistic. The next few years, it's going to be a very difficult time. It's going to be difficult for your mental health. It's going to be difficult for society. And yeah, they're going to be difficult economically as well. I think the most important thing is to stay mentally healthy. And that means talking to each other, trying your best to be compassionate. Because if you don't do that, there will be people in power that will be driving, or at least trying to drive us apart, make us unstable, make us angry, make us hate each other. I mean, there's in 1984, there's a book section, which is almost like a playbook of politics now, where people are getting teach to hate, and not just hate on immigrants, anything particular, just hate in general. Because people who hate are not people who you can unite. And people who you cannot unite, those are people not able to be powerful.